Today we're talking about the episode Tyger Tyger, which aired for Batman the Animated Series 25 years ago today on October 30th, 1992. Hello friends, I'm Andy Knode and welcome back to the show. I'm so glad that you're joining us again. And if you're new to the show, then welcome for the first time. This is the show where we talk about Batman the Animated Series, episode by episode on the 25th anniversary of their release date. So if you're here, I'm sure that it's because you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series, and you're probably most likely, like me, grew up to become a huge Batman fan today. So join us.
Don't tell me I only work here.
So I'll admit, when I was a kid, this episode didn't do much for me. But watching it back now, I am pleased to say that there's a lot going for it. There's a lot of very positive elements to this episode that I'm going to discuss in full detail right after we do our 45-second episode rundown.
The clock is ticking, Batman. Good luck. You'll need it.
We start with Selina Kyle at a zoo after hours, and she is talking with this tiger that I think she's going to try to get out of there. But then this gorilla creature guy shoots her with a tranquilizer dart and takes her out of there. And then when Selina Kyle doesn't show up for a date with Bruce Wayne, then he goes on investigating at the zoo and finds out that she was taken. And so he goes to where she was taken, which is a separate island. And he takes a sample to Dr. Langstrom, who was Man-Bat, to have him identify that. And he's the one that tells him about this island, that this other doctor doing this experimental work with fusing animal and human DNA together. So Batman goes to the island and tries to free Selina, only to find out that she has been transformed into a cat, an actual cat person. And the only way to get the antidote is if he gets the best of Tigress, the other cat person that this doctor has on the island. And in the process, he turns Tigress against the doctor, or his father as he calls him, and finds out that there is that there's more of a heart of gold in this Tigress character person than he was originally given credit for. And he can speak, and he's intelligent, and all those, and he ends up giving the antidote himself to Selina, even though he wants her to stay there on the island with him. He knows that it's best for her that she go back to human race. There is no way that I finished that. I knew it.
Enough, Tigress.
So like I said, this episode was not one that I gave a lot of credit for, but watching it now as a fan of animation, a fan of Batman, a fan of storytelling and mysteries, this had a lot of great elements going for it. And in fact, right off the bat, in the first scene, Selina Kyle is at the park after hours, and there is a security guard.
Okay, Romeo, take it somewhere else. The zoo's closed.
And then this ape man.
I wasn't sent here after the tiger lady.
Two of the three characters in that scene are voiced by Jim Cummings. Big fan of his now, and to see him in the episode, that's really cool.
What in the name?
I also like, in the spirit of world building and this larger universe that Batman lives in, that they bring in Dr. Langstrom, who was Man-Bat, and Batman goes to Dr. Langstrom to get some information about this serum that he found at the zoo, which I think is neat. One, for the world building element, that we take this character as an expert in this field, who was previously featured in an episode, to be part of this storyline. And they acknowledge the similarity of this storyline of somebody creating these human cat creatures to a similar story where we had somebody that was experimenting with infusing bats with humans. So they acknowledge that the similarity in that and use that to their advantage.
Another example of your genetic tinkering, Dorian.
Well, nothing so crude, Batman.
I mean, just this whole story in general. It has a very Island of Dr. Moreau feel to it, with the exception of whatever was left of Marlon Brando.
Who is he?
Although when I think about it, in the movie version of Island of Dr. Moreau, it also featured Val Kilmer, who was also Batman.
I'll get drive-through.
But what I also liked about just the animation design in this has a very, again, that very classic film noir feel. Lots of big windows, lots of large shadows. most of this episode. In fact, I think all of this episode takes place at night, which is always fun. And in the doctor's laboratory, there is plenty of mad scientist-like elements and has that kind of Frankenstein monster kind of feel to it. And even the doctor has that mad scientist the jacket on. So all those kind of things. It just had a great feel to this. And I think I overlooked those as a kid and just dismissed it as, oh, it's another episode about a giant animal person fighting Batman.
Garth, bring him downstairs. Well, that's one way to do it.
The part of this episode that I do remember vividly as a kid is that kind of manhunt. I always like those kind of episodes where there's a person that's sent out into the jungle to be hunted down like an animal. And this kind of turns around its head because we have the animal, in this case, is hunting Batman, the human.
I'll give you a generous head start before releasing Tigress.
Because when Batman finally talks with Tigress and finds out that Tigress can talk, is able to reason with him that what his supposed father is doing is not all that ethical. And
My father taught me. Your father was a test tube.
And I completely forgot about this, that Tigress has a really great story arc to his character. He starts out just as the kind of the henchman or the hired muscle of this doctor, and you come to find out he has a really kind of neat, complicated story that he was created from nothing in a test tube, as Batman says. And this doctor that he thinks of as his father doesn't really truly care about him, but he was just a test subject. And so we see him now struggling with, who do I trust? Everything that I've grown to believe, my entire existence has been based on this one person. And now Batman and Catwoman are telling him something different. So he turns against the doctor, which was a great surprise watching it now that I didn't remember. And then at the end that we have Selina Kyle realizing that they don't have the antidote. I'm struggling with words today.
So, you can talk.
The proper serum to reverse the process. And there's just this great moment.
You could stay here with me.
Oh, Tigress. I can't live like this. I have to be human again.
Goodbye, Selina.
Again, when I was a little kid, I think that was just completely lost on me. But that's why this show holds up so well over time, is because there's new things that you discover as you get older, as you watch it through a different perspective than when you're little, that add to the texture and the layers of the story.
Wait. Won't you come with us? There's nothing for you here.
There's nothing for me anywhere.
So when it came time to rank this episode, like I said, there's a lot of great elements that are going for this. It's a really well-written story. It's got some great animation. It's got Jim Cummings, and I think it aged really well. Although I remember I wasn't a huge fan of it when I was little. Watching it back now, it's a really solid episode. So for all those reasons, I felt it only appropriate that it would fall into the top 10 grouping at this point in time at the number 7 slot. Yes, above I've Got Batman in My Basement, because as fond as I am of I've Got Batman in My Basement, this is much truer to being a Batman story in the film noir, darker tone, kind of more of the intention behind Batman the Animated Series.
You've made the right decision, my dear.
So are there other episodes for you that you watch back now that you remember not being a huge fan of when you were little, and watching it now, having a new appreciation for the story or the animation or some other element that you kind of overlooked as a kid? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that in the comment section below.
As you wish, Father!
If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button. And if you're looking forward to more episodes like this, then all you have to do is hit the subscribe and you'll have those episodes pop up for you more frequently. So this episode wraps up our October. I'll be back this coming Friday on November 3rd with Dreams in Darkness. Until then, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm Andy Knode, and I will see you on Friday.